I'm just about to try. Yeah, it was my computer settings. It was my security settings that the problem, Sam, not Zoom. So I should be able. Yep, I can do it now. There we go. Okay, cool. All right, so I'll just wait now till the time and just start and do my thing. Yeah, would that be right? Okie dokes. Yeah, Marcia. So there's Marcia. Marcia, you and me all logged in under the same account.
Yes, you are.
Okay, you're on now, Sam. I can hear you. That's so funny. Can I hear you, actually? Maybe not. I could for a second.
There you go. Now you can hear me. I was on mute.
That's all good. That's all good. We're just playing the waiting game now. I noticed we've got a few people waiting too. So if everyone can hear, hi from us and welcome. And sorry you've got a few minutes, but for the sake of people who are going to come on a bit later, we should wait to start. There is a Q&A question feature on this webinar. So if people do have questions as we go, just post them in the Q&A. Do our best to answer them.
Yes.
But some countries, saying that, some countries have got a lot of amateur players, golfers, and they have to send.
Yes, say hi to your dad.
Oh, yeah. Dad.
Hi, how are you doing? Hiya.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Hi, Shane. Sorry, this is a bit intrusive, isn't it? Sorry. Just thought I'd say hi.
Welcome to my home. Just in case anyone else is watching, welcome to my home.
That's a good point, yeah. Jean.
Probably think.
Jean here. Hi, Jean.
Hi, Jean. Okay, so it says we've got 8 people participating. Sam, are they in a waiting room?
They can hear us, I think. If the rain could hear us, they'll be able to hear.
I'm afraid with a webinar, there's no waiting room for that. And yes.
Okay.
Jean said, I can hear you. So sorry, everybody, you have to listen to us dribbling on a bit as we hang about. Feel free to say hi and introduce yourself via messenger text, because I don't think you'll be able to.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody.
And if you can see our new function Q&A, please feel free to put your questions in.
And who said hey everybody there? Was that?
That was me, Sam.
Sam.
Thanks, Lorraine.
That's so funny. Lorraine says, I can see and hear everything. It's very entertaining. Funny. Marty is going to start doing some things in a minute.
I might do my sunflower dance.
Yeah, you got to do that.
No.
We should have an icebreaker every webinar. Somebody has to dance.
I'll send you the video.
You could maybe get away with just wearing a sunflower. That would be sufficiently entertaining.
Definitely. Okay, so how are we going, Sam?
Unfortunately, I couldn't share this live on Facebook, just like what we have been doing in the past. But there isn't any option for me to share this live on Facebook, as well on the settings too.
Okay,
This webinar is just exclusively for this crowd, and
sure.
we could not entertain any questions on Facebook, I'm afraid.
Okay.
But we can, if anyone's got questions, they can post them when they listen to the recording.
Yes, they can.
Definitely.
Yeah, and we can just get back.
And everyone can just raise their hands, and you can or click on the Q&A version button
Yeah.
to type in your question there.
Nice. So I'll maybe tell people as we start to just raise their hand if they've got a question, and then I'll find the time. Because we've got time for Q&A. Last question to go.
Scots. They couldn't say no because they have to play for their country. But the English didn't. That's true, that one. Well, they can't make you play. Well, they couldn't actually refuse. Years ago it was. I believe you, but I'm just thinking how.
Okay, yeah.
The state of the club, we wanted to play.
Nearly ready.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we want to play. No, I'm talking about professional. In the Welsh, Irish, and Scots, they couldn't say no. So if the country said, the manager who was running that Welsh team picked his team, they had to play. Only if they wanted to, of course. Yeah, that's what I meant. But the club couldn't stop. Oh, no.
I can't, just so you know, I'm not going to be able to type any messages in. You should see my temporary desk.
Oh, no.
It's hilarious.
Oh, yes.
Entertaining. You're on a box on top of a chair.
They could refuse. The only team they couldn't refuse was England.
Did you go to the forest school, Lorraine, yesterday?
They've changed it now.
There's something kind of, I was more thinking if they don't want to play, you can't make them play.
Oh, no. If they do, they don't want to play for the country.
Steve Evans doesn't.
I don't know what's going on there. Something strange.
Oh,
Hey, we are recording this. No worries. I can actually upload this live on Facebook for our participants to see later on if they miss it.
We probably should have waited to record until we were ready to go, shouldn't we?
No worries. You can pause.
And we'll get going. So
great.
welcome everybody to our Education Angels webinar on rhythms, rituals and routines. So a very huge welcome to you all. If anybody has any questions or comments to make along the way, you've got two options. One, you can raise your hand. So on the bottom of the screen, there's a little hand. If you press that, then it'll put a hand up on the screen and alert us to the fact that you have a question or comment to make. The other way is for you to press the Q&A button. And if you do that, then it will, there's an option there for you to put a question for us. So we'll keep an eye on that, and at certain times throughout the presentation, we'll cover any questions off. And I've got two people helping me here, Sam, Marcia and Jean, actually three. So if you guys see anything in chat that you need to alert me to, please just feel free to message me or raise your hand too. So thanks, guys. So we'll get going on the webinar. So I'll just share my screen. So Education Angels, as many of you know, we're a home-based education company, and our whole philosophy is around education that gives children wings to fly. So today we're going to talk about how rhythms and rituals support your child's learning and development. And through this, we will discuss what rhythms and rituals are, what they mean, and why they're valuable for children, how they support children's sense of safety and security, and generally their emotional well-being. And we look at some typical rhythms for most parents and educators linked to our own biorhythms. And then we'll look at why they're important, in particular for preschool children, and the how-to for rhythms and rituals. And then at the end, we'll have a Q&A session. But like I say, if you do have any questions or comments as we go, please feel free to type them in chat or to raise your hand. So about routines, rhythms, and rituals. So this is routines, rhythms, and rituals. Well, routines in particular, we talk about routines and rhythms interchangeably. They're not the same thing, but they're very closely related. So a routine is a repeated, predictable event that provide a foundation for the daily tasks in your child's life. And some typical daily tasks would be getting up in the morning and having breakfast. It could be all our meal times, our morning tea, lunch, afternoon tea, evening meal, getting ready for bed, school drop-offs, being dropped off at daycare or at your home-based educator, and school pickups. They're very common routines that are repeated daily. And if you think about it, routines also follow a rhythm. They are evident and necessary in all childcare environments, and they're often formed around our natural biorhythms and family educator commitments such as school work or other events. And also when we talk about our natural biorhythms, as Lorraine says, we were chatting before, and she missed our forest school today because one of her children had his or her sleep time at the time of the forest school. And as Lorraine says, if he missed that sleep time, then he'd be quite unsettled, and it would upset his biorhythm, or her, sorry, I don't know whether it was male or female child. It upset that child's biorhythm for the rest of the day, and the child would be out of sorts. So rhythms and routines are really, really important for our own physical and emotional well-being. And if you think about this from an adult perspective as well, it's very easy to lose sight of what it feels like as a child to have unpredictable events happen, because as adults we are fully in control of what we do and when we do it. Yeah, we might have these rituals or rhythms that dictate the pattern of our day, but we still have a high level of control over how they're done, when they're done, and what's done during that rhythm or ritual. And a perfect example of this is, imagine how unsettling it would be for you if somebody else was in control of when you ate, when you had all your meals, and what you had to eat when you had them. It would create a sense of, you know, if your meal time was sometimes 5 o'clock, sometimes 8 o'clock, and you had no idea what was going to happen or when it was going to happen, then it would be very unsettling, even as an adult, for you. So imagine what it's like for children. So that gives you an idea of why routines are important. We can't talk about rhythms, rituals, or routines without looking at the meaning of the word. So rhythm, we prefer to use the word rhythm rather than routine, because just as in nature, we have our own biorhythms. Everything we do has a rhythm, and everything we do as a human being, as a mammal, is connected to nature's rhythms too. So, and we all know this, you know, the cycles of our bodily functions, you know, the natural rhythm of sleeping and waking, breathing in and breathing out has a rhythm. The need to eat, rest and sleep has a rhythm, and children know this instinctively, and they'll set their own rhythm. if we allow them to do that around, particularly for infants and young children, around when they sleep and when they wake. And that rhythm doesn't always suit adults, and anyone with a newborn baby will understand that. So, you know, it's very a very powerful drive and urge within all humans. And we can actually tap into that energy and use that to support children's social and emotional competence, to support their physical well-being, and to support their emotional well-being. So the meaning of the word rhythm derives from the Greek word rhythmos, which relates to the rhyme, meaning flow. And that perfectly explains the ebb and flow that we see in nature, you know, the moon, the tide, the seasons, and like I say, our own flow within our bodies, inhaling and exhaling and eating and sleeping, etc. So you can see that there's no escaping rhythms. It's part of who we are. So when we look at rhythms and routines versus rituals, what's the difference? So rhythms and routines are repeated, predictable events that provide a foundation for events and daily tasks in a child's or an adult's life. Whereas a ritual is a special occasion that helps us navigate emotionally important events or transitions in our lives, as well as enhancing aspects of our routines to deepen relationships. So every routine offers us the opportunity to have a ritual around that routine to enhance that whole experience. And if we think about this, we have this too. Most of us experience this in our lives. You know, it's linked to customs, it's linked to cultural events, you know, celebrating birthdays, celebrating Christmas, Easter, Matariki. This is all part of a ritual that we perform, and that's within our culture or society. Many routines in our day follow a rhythm. These usually follow our natural biorhythms, like waking up, meal times, and bedtimes. And rhythms and routines generally meet a physical need. Whereas a ritual can enhance the experience, making it a special event. So it makes what could be a mundane routine into something really special, making the whole experience more sacred, more inviting, and more caring. And the benefits of rhythms and rituals and how they support learning are, well, I'm talking about just 6 benefits. There are many more, but here's just 6 of them. They create a sense of predictability and they build a child's confidence. So if you imagine if you had the same rhythm to your day every day, then the whole ebb and flow of the day becomes a lot more predictable. Children can build up a sense of, I know what's going to happen next. That I understand that when we have followed this routine or when we perform this task, then I know next I'm going to have my lunch or my morning tea. And that predictability builds confidence because children feel safe and secure in the knowledge that this thing, whatever it is, the need that needs to be met is going to be fulfilled. And that way it promotes and supports positive behaviors. Because if we have predictable events in a child's life, then that child can participate in those events. They feel empowered and they can take part as an active participant, which means that you're less likely to have a negative response or reaction to that rhythm or that event that is going to happen, because it's just what we do here. It's what we do every day. And there's no question, this just happens. So like most rhythms and rituals around, I don't know, getting ready for school, or again, meal times, if you have them as predictable and you involve the child, then there's going to be less resistance from the child and things will run a lot more smoothly. Children learn about social and cultural expectations by having this predictable rhythm and a ritual around how we do things in our family unit, how we do things in our educator's home, how we do things in this childcare setting. Children are really, really smart. And if we have a rhythm that is predictable and builds that sense of safety and security, then they very quickly learn. And you'll you'll hear many parents, and most of you have had this experience yourselves, I'm sure, where you've had a child start with a new educator or start a new daycare setting, and they've been, say, really fussy eaters, and they'll only eat certain foods at home. And yet when they're in their educator's environment and they're eating with other children with a particular ritual in place, suddenly they'll try anything, and they're no longer fussy eaters, and they're more open to unfamiliar experiences. And we see that a lot in education. And again, I've talked about this quite a bit. It promotes a sense of safety and security for children. If children feel safe, then you're going to see much more positive behaviors from those children. And of course, it supports a sense of well-being and belonging. And we all need to belong. We are social animals. It's really important that we feel that sense of connection and belonging. And you'll know this as educators, you know, education is relationship based. We all do better, even as adults, we all do better with educators that we trust and respect. And children, if we have familiar rhythms and rituals, children are able to contribute to their learning environment, which builds their sense of autonomy, their leadership skills, their confidence. So it's really, really important for children's learning. So typical rhythm of the day. This is probably what many of your days look like at every mealtime, but I think this is just so gorgeous. So typical rhythm of the day is following our natural biorhythms, and these offer the perfect opportunity for creating really meaningful rituals to really engage children in the routines of the day. And they would be your morning routine. It would be morning tea, lunch, evening meal, and bedtime. For all of us, those are our daily rhythms. Yeah, we might choose to skip a mealtime, but we all know when a mealtime is. We all know when it's lunchtime. We all know when it's time for dinner. And the same with morning and afternoon tea. So these biorhythms offer perfect opportunities for us to create rituals for children. But bear in mind too, that routines can also have an unintentional negative ritual. So just think about that for a moment for you in your setting, or for you in your family home, or even childcare environment. What happens in your environment? Is it a positive experience when you're having, I'll focus on meal times because that's the most common thread for all of us. What's happening for you during meal times? Are you preparing 3 meals a day every dinner time because your child will refuse to eat certain things, or today they've decided they don't like it when it was perfectly fine yesterday? And suddenly you find that every mealtime becomes a battleground, and that you're preparing lots of different meals and trying to coax and cajole your child into eating. That's quite common for a lot of families and educators. Is there bedtime resistance? You know, suddenly your child decides they don't want to go to bed anymore and everything's a big fight. And your child gets more and more hyper and more out of control as they resist the bedtime routine? Or do you find yourself bribing your child to do certain things, like put their socks and shoes on so you can get through the front door, or you know, get ready for bed, whatever it might be? And I'm sure most of us have done some of this at some time during our parenting experience or our early childhood experience. Now, they do become rituals. They can become something that happens every single day, and it can be really, really stressful and cause a lot of anxiety for families or educators. And again, I've talked about some of these, excuse me, like not wanting to get ready for bed, because for the child, bedtime means having to go to bed, and there's no real reason to get ready to do something they don't want to do. So you can see the logic in it. Not wanting to sit at the dinner table to eat, or fussing over food and not wanting to get dressed. There are a number of reasons for this resistance. However, the one contributory factor is that the child can feel that they're being controlled by the adult, forced to comply to our own expectations around the child's behavior or conduct. And as we talked about in previous webinars, the more we try and control, the more the child will resist. So then we end up with this battle of wills, where we're trying to force the child or control the child or bribe the child into doing something we want them to do. And in doing so, we're giving them something to resist. And that whole dynamic becomes so stressful. Is this all making sense? I'll just stop sharing our Q&A. Let's just see if there's any questions. Oh, we're all good. If you do have any questions, please do put them up in the chat. We're all good so far? Cool. Okay. So some common barriers to creating rituals around our routines and rhythms of the day is that already we're all incredibly busy with so many demands on our time. And, you know, looking after children is an incredibly busy role too. So the idea of adding more steps or adding extra work into that experience can be quite overwhelming for us as educators. And, you know, that whole belief, well, I'm busy already, you know, meal times are a nightmare. I don't have enough time to do this. Or it might sound like a lot of work when already I'm too busy. And I'm sure many of us have heard ourselves saying this to ourselves or even to other people. And nobody's wrong. It's an incredibly busy job. But slowing down is sometimes the best way to speed up. And remember, we all in nature, you know, nothing is hurried and yet everything is achieved. So think about that when we're looking at our own rituals and our own pattern to the day. Are we creating something that's meaningful and purposeful? Or are we just trying to rush through every experience because it's a job that's got to be done? And which one feels better? You know, certainly for me, having an experience that's meaningful, in which we all participate and all have a part to play, is much better than, you know, we've got to get dinner done quick because we need to move quickly on to the next thing. And children pick up on that very, very quickly. So if you're stressed and if you feel that anxiety and like you're rushing around, then very often, and you'll know this from your own experience, that's when you'll see children start to play up and you think, you know, my difficult day's already bad enough, but, you know, because it's this, and this has got to happen today. But it's always when things are really busy that the child might play up or respond negatively to situations. And that's because they pick up on that energy. So creating rituals where children have choices and can be involved and empowered to participate, that gives children a sense of autonomy and control over what they're doing. And if children are engaged, then they're learning. And if they have a sense of autonomy and control, then they're empowered. They're not resisting. Excuse me. They're not resisting, they're participating in a meaningful and engaging experience. Makes life a whole lot easier. So benefits of rituals. So the benefits are they can be developed between an educator and a child to ease and enrich emotionally loaded moments such as separations. So when parents are dropping children off at the educator's home or childcare centre, it's a very stressful moment. Very stressful moment for most children. So having some kind of ritual, sorry, I'll have to have a drink, excuse me a second. Having some kind of ritual around that can actually make the experience a lot more predictable and make it a special moment and make it a lot easier for the parent and for the child. So if you're an educator and you have parents and children who are struggling at that drop-off time, think about what special ritual you can have around that moment. Like it could be that you have a special thing, the parent and child say a special thing together, and then we always go to this one window to wave mummy off, or whatever it might be, wherever works for you and for the parent. It's well worth taking the moment to intentionally set a ritual around that separation. Might not work straight away, but as children become more familiar and it becomes more predictable for the child, then it will help for sure. A ritual or a special place can help a child accept aspects of routines that can be stressful. And we've just been talking about that. The separation, saying goodbye to mum or dad, is one of those moments for sure. Rituals are a powerful way of using gestures and actions and behaviors to bring positive energy and intention to our daily rhythms. And they assist us in creating a healthy emotional environment, making them a purposeful and enduring aspect of each day. So if we look at some ideas for ritualizing a morning routine, so it could be that we have a special getting dressed song, karakia before breakfast. Many of you will already be doing that. Starting the day with gratitude, and for younger children, it can be, what am I happy about today? So it could be something really simple. Setting positive intentions, talking about what we're going to do for the day, but have a phrase that every day you use that phrase, like, what's going to be great about today? Or what am I happy about today? Or what can I do today that makes me feel good? So real simple positive intentions for the day. Having morning stretches, yoga stretches. Again, this can be something, even a drop-off time, that can be implemented, that you go into a special song when you said goodbye to mum or dad, or you have a mat time. So that's a few ideas for ritualizing morning routines. I'm so sorry, everybody. I have allergies, so I've got a bit of asthma. So ideas for ritualizing meal times. Have a tidy up song. You'll see many educators have this as a rhythm or ritual, or childcare centres. Having a song for washing our hands. That's a really great way of teaching children to wash their hands properly. So if you know the song lasts for 2 minutes, then singing that song all the way through means that children are washing their hands at least for long enough to clean them. So really great way to do that. Setting the table together, that's a fantastic ritual, and it only works if you involve the children. Lighting a candle. Even preschool children can have a candle at the table and be involved in that whole process. And because they're, children are smart, we just teach them the candle's hot, have a risk assessment around it, make sure that the children are safe. But it's a real great way to set the intention that once the candle is lit, then it's a meal time. So we understand that when we're eating our dinner and the candle's lit, that we all stay seated at the table. And then if the children are involved in blowing the candle out, then they know too that that signifies the fact that we can leave the table and the meal time's over. Karakia before meal times, again, many of you will be doing that. Sharing kai, really, really important that children are allowed to serve themselves. If children serve themselves and they're offered choices around food, then they're going to develop real good, positive beliefs around food. And again, the more you can give children choices and allow them to participate in an experience, then the less you will see that behavioral challenges because of resistance and because of control. So again, during meal times, you can talk about 3 feelings we had today. Great way to teach emotional literacy and emotional intelligence. So to have that great conversation, it could be around food, but having a ritual means you're asking that same question every day. What 3 feelings did I have today? And it becomes predictable. It's something you do every meal time. Is everyone good? Any questions? We're all good. Okay. Oops, sorry. Just trying to look at chat. So ideas for ritualizing bedtimes. Feel free if you have any ideas you'd like to share, or anything that you do that would be helpful to other people. Please do share that in the chat as well. So ideas for ritualizing bedtimes could be when you have a bath or shower, that you choose your own PJs. We have bedtime stories. That's a real common ritual that most children really love. Ending the day with gratitude. What am I pleased about? What good things happened to me today? Sharing the great things about today, same thing. Bedtime songs and bedtime cuddles. And there could be many, many more, like tucking, like that image shows us there, tucking into bed with the favorite cuddly toy. All things that help to children, you know, saying goodnight to our teddies before bed, saying goodnight to our family before bed, more importantly, or our pets, but having that regular ritual around that. So the same thing happens every night. And it's not hurried. That's the important thing. It needs to be a special time with you, and a special time with your child. So if we think about examples of mealtime rituals, I jumped ahead a little bit before, but I talked about most of these. So always involving the children in the ritual. So setting the table, preparing snacks, candles or flowers. Again, things like this signal the start of the meal times and can set expectations around behavior. You know, if you're lighting that candle every day, you can say, remember when the candle's lit, we know that we're seated at the table. So just little cues. Rituals are great opportunities to provide little cues and reminders to the children around behavioral expectations, and children serving themselves. And choosing when to eat as well. Many home-based providers and childcare centres will have rolling meal times, which means that within, say, an hour and a half period of time, children can choose when they want to eat and serve themselves. Again, helping children in the process helps to build a healthy relationship with food and meal times, instead of a negative connotation of being rushed to eat, or even to eat all the food that they've been served. And the same happens with bedtime as well. If you have a bedtime ritual that is calming and soothing, and the child feels really special and really safe and really loved and appreciated, then that, of course, is always going to aid a more peaceful sleep. Sometimes we can rush routines, thinking that if we get the routine finished, we can get back to the learning. But remember that all experiences are learning experiences. Rhythms and rituals teach children that they're valued, that they have a really important role to play in your setting as an educator, in your home as a parent, or in the childcare centre. They teach children that they're capable and competent, that they can play a part in this ritual, and they have an important part to play. So what might seem like a really small thing to an adult, like putting the tablecloth on the table, it's massive to a child. It helps them feel really good about themselves. It builds their sense of belonging. I belong to this family because I'm part of this ritual, and this ritual feels really good to me because I know when we go through this ritual that I'm going to feel good, I'm going to feel loved, I'm going to feel valued. It promotes feelings of safety and security, and it's really important for social and cultural awareness. Again, just think about karakia before meal times, or you might have your own cultural norms and experiences that you do as a family, and how important are they to you? And if you create those when children are young, then they will stay with them for the rest of their lives if you make it a ritual, and if you give it the level of respect and importance, and make it a really life-enhancing experience, then that ritual will carry through for the rest of your child's life. And that's really, really important. So think about, when your children grow up, do you want them to be celebrating birthdays with you? Do you want them to be coming round for Christmas dinner? Do you want to be celebrating Matariki together? All these things. If that's the case, then start now. Start while the children are young, because it does make a massive, massive difference. And we know how important, well, for me, those experiences are really, really important. So just have a quick reflection for yourselves over the coming few days about how you can make that special, how you can ritualize some of the routines and events that are just routines for you right now. And you could really enhance them by making them into rituals. This links to the New Zealand curriculum as well. You know, the New Zealand curriculum says that children should have a strong sense of identity. So if you have rituals and rhythms and they are linked to your cultural beliefs, then that's going to build that strong sense of identity. But also think about it as that sense of identity of, who am I in this educator's setting if you're with a home-based educator? Or who am I in this childcare setting? Do I have that sense of identity? Do I know who I am and what part I can play in this environment? Children are connected with and can contribute to their world. And we can offer so many opportunities for this, and rituals are one of them for sure. Children have a strong sense of well-being and are confident and involved learners. Remember, every experience is a learning experience. If children are engaged, then they're learning. There's no doubt about that. So if they're engaged in the ritual, then it's meaningful and they're learning something from it. Children are effective communicators. Having rituals around meal times and bedtimes are such a great way to really enhance children's communication skills. And by modeling that for yourself too. The ability to anticipate routines, customs, and regular events, and to know what is acceptable and valued behavior. And routines are so important for this, because most children very quickly learn that at meal times we sit at the table, and at meal times we don't jump all over our seats and dance on the tables and do all these crazy things that they might want to try and do when they're in the outside environment. And the reason they understand that is because there has been a ritual developed around those meal times. Whether that's an intentional ritual or otherwise, it's still a ritual. It's still a regular event and a custom and a practice that is repeated every day. And of course, children need to have a regular but flexible pattern that is established for the day, so they feel safe and secure in the knowledge of what's going to happen next. So for you, I would certainly say, involve your child and family in the process of creating rituals. So think about what they would like to, I've got this out of order, haven't I? But you can see, ask what they like about your current mealtime ritual or routine. Ask what they'd like to change about it. Obviously, if they're old enough. Or what would they like to add or remove? So it could be that they don't like anything that you do and they want to change it up completely. And think about what part can they play? What part would they like to play to be involved in this ritual? And that really brings you together within your setting or within your family. And think about the future as well. Like I say, having rituals within your family, within your culture, within your learning environment can really add meaning to what you're doing. But also it develops positive character traits and dispositions for future success. Because if we help children to develop positive attitudes towards daily routines, then this disposition, this discipline, and this character building experience can support them in the future too. And this is a great quote here. You'll never change your life until you change something that you do daily. The secret of your success is found in your daily routines. So if you think about that, even the daily routines of most successful people are actually they're quite disciplined about what they do and when they do it, and they hold themselves accountable. Well, we can teach this in early childhood and develop that character trait with our children, and that really does set them up for future success. And that's the end of my presentation. So if anybody has any questions or comments to make, then please feel free to just unmute and go ahead, or to put the questions in the Q&A. These slides will be shared with you, and we also have a free giveaway for each and every one of you, so that you can that will support you in having conversations with your children around developing rituals and routines. And it could be that your children literally, or the children in your home-based setting or childcare centre, because the more we can involve children, the less resistance we'll have when we actually say, well, this is what we do here, this is the expectation around our rituals and events. So if we're all good, I'm going to say thank you all for attending. Look out for the freebie and join us for our next webinar. Not set the date yet, sorry, but we will let you know in our Facebook chat. And for anybody listening to the recordings, if you do have any questions or any comments or ideas to help other people in forming their rituals, then please do support each other in that group, and we'll keep an eye on the chat as well. And I noticed there's a question here. Can you start these rituals as early as 1 year old? And I would say yes, for sure. You might develop the rituals yourself and just take the cues from the child, but children learn very, very young around cultural, behavioral, and your expectations as a family. So the sooner you start it, the better. So definitely as early as 1, and even younger children can participate. And if you think about it, the typical, like we were talking about, the biorhythms, they already are. It's just that maybe it's not happening intentionally and you're not setting a ritual around it. So absolutely, start as young as you can. And Kay says, yes, I believe children choosing when they want to eat gives them autonomy and gives them a sense of ownership. And that absolutely is. Absolutely. Kai Pai to Mahi, for sure. That's so true. And like I say, the less you give children to resist, the less you'll see behavioural challenges. So, yep, good. Great comments there. Thank you. So again, thanks all. I'll see you next time. And if anybody's got any ideas on what the topic of our conversation could be next time, again, please put that in the Facebook chat, and me or somebody will certainly be facilitating that conversation with you or for you. So thanks for attending, and I'll see you next time. Bye all.